That's fucking brilliant days. Brilliant days. Brilliant days we didn't get a break. Go on, Jan. Go on, lad. Get a drink. Boom.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Roker Report podcast in association with the Southern Community Soup Kitchen. It's Gav and you join us to chat all about Sunderland's 0-0 draw with Burnley. I mean, if you missed the game, you might think, well, that was a bit of a boring result, wasn't it? But it wasn't. There's lots to talk about and we will get straight into it. Joining me today for the first time in a while is Martin. Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. Hi. Happy New Year. Just saying that to piss Chris off. But no, it's nice to be back, isn't it?
Well, yeah and no. We'll see. We'll get talking about this game. An interesting game, mate. I mean, we were just chatting before we started recording there. I mean, I've kind of avoided the highlights. I didn't want to see them. And we'll talk about why very soon. But I did listen to Regis Labrie after the game, and he was talking about how this was still a good point. You know, we would have took it before the game, I think. I would have definitely took a point before the game. I mean, we'll get into the whys and why nots and the disappointments and all the rest of it, but ultimately it was still a good point on the road, right? I mean, people probably get bored of me saying this. You know, any point away from home is a good point, I think.
I think if you're looking at the fixtures really objectively, and you know, before the game, I said either a draw or a win would be a positive result for us because we're adding to our points tally and we're also depriving Burnley of a couple of points. So on face value and on paper, yeah, it's a decent point. I think given what happened, then
we still haven't mentioned it yet, by the
way. Did something happen? I don't know. Given what happened, it's 2 points dropped. Like, it's categorically 2 points dropped when you get to that point, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You know, you kind of look in, and I just think I feel more confident of us getting automatic promotion after that second half than I did before going into that game, because I thought that was really going to be a litmus test for us in terms of whether we actually have got enough for automatic promotion or not. And, you know, on another day, that second half, we win 3 or 4-0 because we had the chances. And I actually thought we were so much better than them in the second half. I actually think that can give us more confidence than having played crap and got battered for the whole game and snuck a 1-0 win would actually give us, because I think the team will think, you know what, we are better than one of the top 3 favourites in the league. So there's absolutely no to fear. You know, you look at the fixtures that Burnley and Leeds and Sheffield United have coming up. You look at the fixtures that we've had at home, and, you know, again, you can't ever predict things will work out as the league table suggests it might, but they've all got to play each other. You know, we've played Burnley and Sheffield United twice now. We've only got Leeds to play away out of the top 3. They're all going to take points off each other. And I just think in terms of putting a line in the sand, forget about the missed penalties there. I've said the missed penalties. Forget about the missed penalties. That's putting a line in the sand in terms of performance against, you know, again, one of the fancied sides was massive. And I think we'll take so much confidence from that. And then, you know, you've got this whole thing where, you know, I put a bit up on the site, you know, in some respects, it could galvanise us, because that could be the thing that brings everybody together. And, you know, however many games we've got left, I think we've got 56 points to play for, or something, 54 points to play for left this season. There's still an awful lot of football to be played. And if we can harness that to galvanise us into this next spell, it could be massive. So I'm choosing to look on the positive, but definitely 2 points dropped.
Yeah, I mean, just to address what you said, I agree. I think we've got, you know, you look at these games that we've played against the other top sides, we've never been outplayed. No. We look like against Leeds, I thought we were, you know, it was 2 good teams. Took 4 points off Burnley, and it should have been 6.
Yeah.
The away game at Sheffield United, we were the better team and got beat, and then beat them at the Stadium of Light. We've got absolutely nothing to fear, really.
Nothing.
You're right. We've got to try and take the pod. Look, and I'll address it, right? The penalties. I'm trying to look past that, because as you just said, I think generally the performance was brilliant. I think Burnley first 15, 20 minutes of the first half.
Yeah, we started
with a
slowly,
better
didn't
team. Yeah. But after that point, I think we were the better side.
Yeah.
I've watched a little bit of Burnley recently. They're not a great team, but they're very solid. So they don't give you many chances. They don't concede many goals. They make you work for your chances, basically. But at the other end of the pitch, they're not great. They're not, you know, you watch us sometimes and you think, even in this game, you watch us sometimes go on the front foot, and we are lethal at times. We've got a lot of pace, a lot of trickery, some good players up front. Burnley don't. And I think that was on show in this game. And look, we've got absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. Like, and I was pissed off after the game because I seen people giving Isidor stick. There was a lot of support for him as well, by the way. But I seen people giving Isidor stick, and that's the absolute last thing we need right now, because he's been such an important player for this team. And I get why people are frustrated. When somebody misses 2 penalties, it's really, really annoying. But at the same time, he hasn't done it on purpose. He looked more gutted than anybody when he missed that second one.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked inconsolable, and we need him this season, so there's nothing to be gained from piling in on him.
But it's not support, is it? That's the thing that pisses me off.
Yeah.
It's frustration, right? And we all got frustration, and I was annoyed with him at the time when he missed that second one, because
I didn't even watch the second one, by the way. I ran out the pub. I stood outside. I was a right pansy, mate. Outside.
Oh man, it's a difficult one. With support comes responsibilities, right? And to me, giving somebody shit on social media because they've stood up and missed 2 penalties, and by the way, to stand up and take that second penalty took a load of bloody bollocks, like, because he could easily have just gone, nah, not me. I'm not going near that. And if he'd scored that, every single person would be commending him for his bottle. Go, shit.
Yeah.
For him to stand up and take that penalty in the last minute and knock that in took a load of guts, that. And, the actual act of standing up to take it and wanting to take it, despite missing the first one, it doesn't matter whether it goes in or not at that point, because he's made that decision. He showed his character. And, especially through that era of sort of falling down from the Premier League through the Championship, we've had so many players who wouldn't even stand up to take 1 penalty, never mind 2. So you've got to go, it's football. You can argue the rights and wrongs about whether he should have taken the second one, whether somebody else should have stepped in, whether Le Fee should have nominated penalty takers. Like, that's a whole other debate, isn't it? But, Patrick Roberts got a load of shit after missing the Sheffield United. That was completely uncalled for. And, you can criticise his penalties, go, well, why did he go the same way? Well, he got them both on target. If the keeper goes the other way, they go in. So it's not as if he's blazing them over the bar or, tried to do a little Panenka and the keeper stood there and caught it.
It's not like Jeff Whitley, is it?
No, it's not, right?
Yeah.
But, you can criticise his technique, or you can criticise him for wanting to take the second one, but to give him shit and, whatever else comes with social media, it's not support. Like, it's categorically not support. It's completely opposite of support. And, what was brilliant to see, it actually almost had me in tears, was at the end where he was in tears and the away end is up, clapping and singing. Yeah. Dan Neil's pushing over. With brilliant from Dan Neil, by the way. He got Isidor in front of the crowd and was encouraging the crowd to clap him, and the crowd didn't need much encouragement. But that's support, right? And that will make that whole thing stronger. It will make the team stronger, and it'll get that bond between the supporters and the players even stronger than it was, because, like, some positive has got to come out of that. Because I don't think he's ever missed one. I think that's the first time he's ever missed a penalty in professional football, and he misses 2 in bloody 10 minutes. You couldn't write it, could you? But it is what it is. But as supporters, we've got a responsibility to support, and he needs support.
Yeah. Yeah, and the first one wasn't a great penalty, but the second one I thought was a good penalty. Even though it went the same way, I thought it was a really good penalty. It was a good... Look, their goalkeeper, he's an England international goalkeeper.
He's a twat.
And he's conceded 9 goals all season. He's tough to get past.
He is.
And,
there's an argument...
It is what it is. It happens.
There's an argument he shouldn't have even been on the pitch for the second one. The amount of bloody time wasting he did before the first penalty. He should have got a yellow card. Didn't he? And then he did the same for the second one. Like, there's an argument to say that he shouldn't have been on the field. Like, the first one wasn't a penalty, was it? He was outside the box for a start. But I think it was a foul. I think he clipped him. And if he'd given the foul outside the box, he would have got red carded. So, you can argue, Burnley could argue either way whether that was a better thing for them, a better outcome for them or not, because they might have been in a situation where they're playing however long with 10 men. So I think we've struggled with penalties this season, haven't we? Patrick Roberts missed the one, Sheffield United.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about the first one in a little bit more detail, I guess, because you're right, it wasn't a penalty. We'd have been fuming if that one had been given against us, I think.
100%, yeah.
I think it's debatable whether it's a foul even.
I think he clipped
I know you
him.
just said you think it was, but...
I think it's one of those where it's not intentional, but they were both running and his leg clipped his heel. I think
I've seen Isidor do that exact movement about 20 times this season and not get a penalty or a foul.
But he was clean through, though.
He is a bit of a diver, like.
He is, but he was clean through. There was absolutely, I think he would have fancied himself in that situation to score, because he just had one more touch and he was 12 or 13 yards out with a clean shot at goal. So there's no reason to go down there. So to me, that tells you everything that you need to know in terms of whether he got touched. I don't think there was much in it, and you'd argue whether it was deliberate. I don't think it was a deliberate foul, but I think he certainly got his heel clipped.
Yeah, but like I say, I don't think it was a penalty, but never mind, there's no VAR in the Championship. We get the penalty. It's all right. It's not the worst penalty I've ever seen. I just think if you're taking a penalty, and it's all right for me saying this as a football fan who has never played professional football in front of a crowd or the cameras or whatever, but like I always just think put your foot through it. Even if that goes in row Z, I'd rather there was a bit of pace and a bit of height on the shot, and it makes it difficult for the goalkeeper. And I just think it was easy to save. If I'm analysing it, I think it was easy to save.
The annoying thing about both of them, and again, it's dead easy to watch in slow motion and offer advice and critique, isn't it? But like the keeper was moving well before Isidor went to strike the ball on both occasions, and he was off his line on the second one. By the way, it could have been retaken if the referees or the assistant referee had been on it. But the keeper's moving, and if you're composed and confident, you keep an eye out for that, and you go the other way, don't you? But hey, look, it's done. You can't say. I think to criticise him for standing up to take the second one, I thought the second one was a good penalty. Like he struck it well, and I thought it was a really good save.
Yeah.
And it was just a shame after all of Trafford, and Trafford's a mag, I think, isn't he? I read somewhere. Is he? Oh. So after all of his antics, he'll get an interesting reception next time he comes to the stadium, won't he?
He will. The second one, when on first glance, I thought that's not a penalty, but then the cameras, the Sky cameras showed a better angle where you can clearly see the lad follow through on circuit. It's definitely a penalty.
Yeah, I think even Scott Parker said it was a penalty for that one. So
yeah, and if you're Scott Parker, you're probably fuming with your player for diving in like that.
I think it was his debut as well, was it? I think it was a new sign who'd come on.
Was it?
Or a recent sign.
I didn't pay that much attention, if I'm honest. But no, like I say, definitely a penalty. I think he took it a lot better than the first one, and it was just a really good save.
Well, he's tried to double bluff Trafford, hasn't he? He's tried to double bluff him in terms of not going the same way. And but if Trafford goes the other way, we're hailing Isidor as a bloody hero for stepping up and taking a great penalty for the second one. So it's sometimes you just have to hold it with that second one. It's a case of holding your hands up and going, it's a bloody good save, and it's just a shame.
It was a really good save, and as you've sort of touched on a couple of times, I think it takes bollocks to get back up there and take the second one. Yeah, and Wilson Isidor's a brilliant character. More importantly than missed penalties and football, he's just a nice person, and I've never seen a new signing embrace Sunderland as well as he has. Yeah, he's come in. Brilliant. He's lived and breathed not just the football club, but the area, the fans, everything about Sunderland. From singing "Wise Men Say" at the end of games with fans to dancing around like an idiot on stage at Christmas light switch-ons and like all these things. Right, he has really embraced this football club. So if there's one player who deserves to be given a bit of leeway and needs an arm around him and needs to feel the weight of our support, it's him. Yeah. And I just pray he scores on Tuesday because he deserves it. I was gutted for him, proper gutted for him.
Oh, me
too. More than the 2 points we dropped. I was gutted for him. Yeah, watching him on the pitch. 100%. It was devastating. And going into Tuesday, he needs to know that he's loved, because if we're going to get promoted, we need him. We need Wilson Isidor at his best. Yeah. And I've seen players crumble after moments like that, not just at Sunderland but elsewhere, where literally their confidence goes to shit and the corner to barn door. He needs to know that we're all right with what happened, because he is a difference-making player. If we get promoted, it'll be because of him and because of other players, obviously, but because of the goals he brings to the team and the type of goals and important goals that he scores, and he makes us a threat. And I just think he needs to know that he's he's not on his own with this, because
he's class.
Not more than anything, he's a human being.
I'd love the club to push through his transfer now and just get it done and just go, believe in you, just get him signed. But it's a stage of the game it was at as well. I was racking my brains to think when we've missed 2 penalties in the game before, and I remembered one years ago when Bracewell and Martin Scott missed 2 against Palace, but we won that game
against Tottenham.
Well, yeah, but we won that game, and the Darren Bent one was the other one I could think of where he missed 2. But we won both those games, and the penalties weren't so late on in the games to make to be decisive. So that was the big difference. But look, it's done, isn't it?
Yeah, and Darren Bent, I think, scored twice on top of that.
Yeah,
he could have had 4 or 5 in that game.
Here's a prediction for you. Wilson Isidor will take another penalty against James Trafford this season.
Oh, don't say that.
Personally, I'm a big fan of penalties that you get into the sort of top half of the goal. I think they're harder to save if you've got a bit of height on them. But then there's more margin for error if you're putting a bit of height on them because you can sky them, can't you? Isidore because he had the chance early, I think before the first penalty, where Le Fee had put him through. And I tell you what, if anybody wants to know why we signed Le Fee, that pass is it in a nutshell, isn't it? Like, no other player on the field that we have would have played that pass because it was absolutely sensational.
It was. I didn't... When I'm watching the game and I'm processing what's happening, I didn't know how he managed it in terms of just even to get in the position to play the pass, because he basically knocks it around the Burnley player, doesn't he? And then, absolutely does him. And by the way, considering we've signed him as a centre mid, as a 10, he played out on the left wing for presumably tactical reasons, and I thought he did really well, considering it's his first game all season. Really hasn't started, has he? I don't think, in Rome.
No, he hasn't started much, if at all. And that was interesting, wasn't it? I listened to you and Chris talk about whether Le Fee would play or not. And when I did the...
I won that argument, by the way. I was smug when the team sheet came out.
But I thought it was nailed on that he would start and do the starting 11 before the game, and I included him in that. I thought he'd play centrally. I thought Aushish would stay in the team because I thought it was really unfair to drop him, actually. I think he's looked increasingly good over the past few weeks. I just thought we'd want players who can carve those things out, and Aushish can do that more than Rig, who I think's been a bit off the boil over the past couple of months. Obviously, he's had a spell out with injury, hasn't he?
And understandably so, to a degree, given his age. I think it's because I saw the little package they did on Sky with him before the game.
Yeah,
they were really hyping him up, and I think it was Curtis Davies in the studio talking about he's going to go on and play for massive clubs and going to go on to big things and all that. And look, I agree, I think he will, but you've also got to temper your expectations with him because he's a kid. Like, do you know what really brought it home for me this week? That photo of him holding his driving test certificate. I was like, I don't know what it was about that photo, but I just seen it. I was like, shit, he's just a Ben, isn't he?
No,
you kind of forget because he's been so important for us this year. He's just a kid. And like when people were discussing the merits of signing Le Fee and even signing another striker, I think that kind of gets missed. Is that, yes, we've got a very young team, but you can't just lump everything on Chris Rigg. He needs to be managed in the club. I think the club know that, which is why we went out and signed a really talented player who's ready to play, because Rigg will have to be dipped in and out.
Well, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because we saw it with Job last year where they played him through, any dips in form. And, I tell you, like, Job in the second half, by the way, absolutely superb, wasn't he? Like, and you can see the benefit this season of him being played through last season. So, it wasn't necessarily a surprise that Rigg started. It'll be interesting with another game in close succession whether he changes that about a bit. But it's going to be interesting to see where Le Fee plays longer term, because you've got Bellingham, Le Fee and Rigg. And, you can put Aushish and Alexic in there, but I think they're kind of behind those three, aren't they, for those two positions. And then if we do sign another striker, which I think we'll sign somebody, you've got what you do with Wilson. Do you partner him in the 2? Then you've got one fewer positions behind him to pick from. Or you push him out on the left until Watson and Mundle come back. There's all sorts of really good selection dilemmas, isn't it, to consider. But no, Le Fee impressed me. You can just tell, can't you? He was just picking passes out so comfortably, and the ball just looks under his control all the time. His touch is beautiful, and he's just on another level in terms of his sharpness and his passing, which is great, given, as you say, that he hasn't played a great deal of football.
Yeah, I think you can already tell just what was signed.
Yeah, he's just quality.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, that I mean, the best example of that was that pass, but at the same time, I think just some of these, like there was a couple of times where I'm watching the game and I'm thinking, we're building up a head of steam here, and it would have been really easy to be wasteful with the ball, and he just isn't. I don't. There was one really early in the game where he like shanked it and put it into Rose Edge when he tried to cross it with his
first
left
cross
foot.
wasn't good, was it? But apart from that.
But I mean, other than that, I don't think he wasted the ball, and I think that was important.
Oh, massively, and I think he's got to play centrally, and I think he will very soon. I think we put him out there just so he get a feel for the championship, getting to know his teammates, because he's only been training with them for a week, so getting into a proper game with them, and for Sirkin as well. And first 20-30 minutes, he really struggled, didn't he? And I think they were Hume and Sirkin did. I thought both fullbacks struggled.
Yeah.
But I think second half he was kind of back to what we know is his approach in his best form. I thought he had a good second half. But I thought the whole team did. I thought we actually we raised our performance levels in the second half and really took to the game well. But yeah, it's a frustrating one, isn't it?
Yeah, like I say, there'll not be many teams this season have gone to Turf Moor and pushed them as hard as that.
No.
And yes, I'm one of the, and everybody listening to this knows this because I've heard this a million times, but I'm definitely a glass half full Sunderland fan. Like, I'll always try and draw positives. I'll try and, you talk about being supportive to Isidor and the definition of support. To me, that's how I like to be. I'm always trying to eke positives, particularly when, the effort's on display. When we started this podcast back in 2016, when we bombed out the Premier League and we bombed out the Championship, we rightly laid into the players because they didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And now they do. And I might be wrong, but I just struggle to really go in 2-footed on players who don't deserve it. I think,
I think
it's hard.
That's right, isn't it? Like, if it's a two-way street, right? And players have to do that minimum thing where they try the hardest whenever they pull on the shirt, they represent the club well, all that sort of stuff, right? As long as they're doing that, they should get support. Now, if players aren't good enough, I criticise the technique, criticise this, that, and the other. When it gets personal, then that's a completely different story, and it's not on, is it? But like this group of players, and I think the club from head to toe is worthy of support. That doesn't mean don't criticise things if they're not going right, but like we're in a really good place. Actually, we're in the best place, I think, as supporters since Quinny was in charge in that first season, where you've got that real feeling that something is building and something can happen. And I think you only have to look at the the transfers that the transfer that we've made already this January and the other business that we're being linked with to show the ambition of the club. We're signing a player there, if we go up, we've agreed to sign him for 20-odd million euros, potentially a world-class player. We've got bids in, 9, 10, 11, 12 million, depending on what you read, for certain strikers. That's not an unambitious club. That's not a club that's trying to scrimp and save and just get by. We're going for it. While
we're, try and get this Burnley game out of our heads, I think if you're going to get promoted, you've got to go and get 3 points from Derby away. We've got to try and just put Burnley to bed, get that out of our heads, get over it quickly. If Isidor scores, brilliant. Like, imagine the relief on his face when he scores. It's going to be great. I just think, I think we've got to really turn this around into a positive, and all that frustration, all that sort of negativity that there was after the final whistle, harness it and go to Derby and make them pay for it, basically.
No, we do. It's a game that on paper we should be, if we've got aspirations going up automatically, we've got to be going there and getting the 3 points, haven't we? I think it's a big game, especially, the 2 away games after that, or 3 away games, Middlesbrough away, Leeds away, Sheffield Wednesday away, and then Coventry away, which is always a bit of fun, isn't it? So,
Coventry could be on 0 points after 15 games or 26 games, 27 games,
45 games,
and I still wouldn't be confident about that. Yeah, it's going to be a big game Tuesday. Regardless of what team we put out, we should still be going there and winning. It's a massive game Tuesday, like we keep saying. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm going, and my record of watching Sunderland win away from home is abysmal. So sorry everyone that I'm going to the match. We'll see. To be fair, I was going to go to Burnley as well, and I didn't. And I would have been blaming myself for those 2 penalty misses if I'd been there. Well, so
I fancy us on Tuesday. I fancy us on Tuesday.
I do as well. We'll be back with a podcast after that game, chatting all about what happens, hopefully talking about 3 points. Yeah, let's just get behind Wilson Isidor, get behind the players. Let's make them feel the weight of our support down at Derby. We're going to need it. We're going to need it if we're going to get promoted. And there's nothing can be gained from targeting players for mistakes made on the football pitch. I think a lot of people will realise that we're a bit emotional and a little bit over the top with the reaction to that.
You can understand it, can't you? It's to a large, it's frustration.
Oh, yeah, of course I can. Everyone channels their frustrations in different ways, but targeting a player on social media is not the way to do it.
No, absolutely not.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for joining us. It's been great. We're now on Blue Sky, if anybody's over there. I know a lot of people have been emailing us, asking us to transfer over to Blue Sky. We are at Roker Report SAFC. There are a couple of bogus accounts. That's the main reason I started it, to be fair. People pretend to be us, which just seems like the saddest thing ever, really. Why would you want to pretend to be us? There are people who spend their time pretending to be Roker Report on various social media platforms. But if you want the official Roker Report page, it is Roker Report SAFC. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So make sure you catch us on all those platforms. Cheers, Martin. Thanks again, mate.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, listeners. We'll catch you after Derby. See you then.